Hey, Sophia. I'm back in the not great lighting room. Sorry about that. Kind of a time crunch. Okay, we have a lot to cover today because this is a busy, busy week for Jesus. So we are in Mark. And we are in Mark chapter 14, but which is kind of where we ended yesterday. But I'm going to skip a little bit. So we are starting at verse 22. And this is the last meal that Jesus shares with his disciples. We call it the Last Supper, and we commemorate it by, when we go to church, we might call it the Eucharist, we might call it the Lord's Supper, we might call it, there's another thing it's called. Anyways, we have different names for it, but we do this because of the instructions Jesus gives us here. So, and I think we talked about this in an earlier video. So, chapter 22, while they were eating, Jesus took the bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take it, this is my body." Then he took the cup, gave thanks, and offered it to them, and they all drank from it. "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many," he said to them. "I tell you the truth, I will not drink again of the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it anew in the kingdom of God." When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. So this establishes what's going to be one of the most important traditions in Christianity, which is that we share food together. And when we do it, when we eat together, we remember that Jesus gave himself for us. That just like he does with the bread, he breaks it, he blesses it, and he shares it with us. But that's the same thing he did with himself. That he broke it and then he shares it with us. Verse 27, and he's talking to his disciples. "You will all fall away," Jesus told them, "for it is written, 'I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered.'" He's quoting an Old Testament prophet. "But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter declared, "Even if all fall away, I will not." Peter's kind of bold. Have you noticed that? He's kind of my favorite disciple, because he's the one who lets his mouth get ahead of him sometimes. He has big ideas, and he's always like, "I would never do this. I will always do this." But he means well, and Jesus is always very gentle with him. So even though Peter says, "Even if everyone else falls away, I would not fall away." "I tell you the truth," Jesus answered, "today, yes, tonight, before the rooster crows twice, you yourself will disown me 3 times. To disown somebody means to say, like, I don't know them. But Peter insisted emphatically, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the others said the same. They went to a place called Gethsemane. And Jesus said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took Peter, James, and John along with him, and he began to be deeply distressed and troubled. "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death," he said to them. "Stay here and keep watch." Going a little farther, he fell to the ground and prayed that if possible the hour might pass from him. "Abba, Father," he said, "everything is possible with you. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Simon," he said to Peter, "are you asleep? Could you not keep watch for 1 hour? Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak." Once more he went away and prayed the same thing. When he came back, he again found them sleeping, because their eyes were heavy. They did not know what to say to him. Returning the 3rd time, he said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Enough! The hour has come. Look, the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." Ooh, so there's a lot happening, right? So first he tells them, you're all going to fall away. You're all at some point going to be embarrassed to be associated with me. And Peter's like, "No, not me, even if everyone else falls." And he says, "Peter, you're actually going to do it 3 times. That's an important thing, because what we're going to see is that Peter does betray him 3 times. And then we're going to get to see later how Jesus responds to him. So Peter's being all brash and bold and like, that maybe these other suckers would, but I never would. And Jesus kind of has to remind him, "Peter, you're weak too." And we see it even at the garden, right? He says, "Please stay awake with me." Jesus just wants company. This is He knows what is coming. He knows his death is soon. And that's why he's praying so intensely in the garden. And he's saying, I know this is coming. I know this is coming. And if there's any way, God, that you can stop this, I really wish you would. Jesus doesn't want to suffer. Nobody wants to suffer. Nobody willingly, nobody enjoys it. So he's saying, if there's any other way that we can accomplish this, then please let this pass. Let something else happen. But he ends it by saying, but let, whatever you want, do that, not what I want. So he recognizes in this moment that he and God maybe have different plans, even though, he is God. But in this moment, in his physical body, he's just afraid. He's afraid of hurt. He's afraid of embarrassment. He's afraid of all the things we would be afraid of in the same circumstances. And he wants us, we're seeing Jesus experience some of the worst parts of being human. Jesus has experienced some of the best parts of being human. So he's been to weddings and he's enjoyed his friends and he's, loved little kids and taken care of his mother. He's done all of the things that we love about being human. But now he's experiencing that his friends are going to betray him, that his friends are not going to be loyal. He's experiencing that just when he wants their company, they aren't up to it. And he's not mad at them. He just understands they're weak. He says, your spirit is willing. I know you want to. Your body is just weak. They're tired. He says, please stay with me. I have to pray. He knows this big thing is coming. They don't really understand what's coming. He says, please pray with me. Stay up with me. I don't want to be alone. It's really what he's saying. I don't want to be by myself. And the disciples keep falling asleep. And Jesus is praying this, super intense prayer where he's saying, I see that this is coming. I know that the hour is here. I know it's about to happen, but I really don't want it to happen. Do you notice he calls God Abba? And that's a Hebrew word that is father, but it's more affectionate than father. It actually means daddy. So that's what small, Israeli children who speak Hebrew, that's what they call their fathers. So it's an affectionate term that shows us the relationship that Jesus has with God and that we can have with God. We talk to God like a daddy. And he's saying, please, I don't want this to happen. I'm really scared. And we know it's going to happen anyway because this is how Jesus is going to free all of us from sin. And he understands that. So even though he's saying, please take this away, he's saying, but if this is the only way for it to happen, then let it go ahead because he loves us enough. I think he's probably in that moment looking at those sleeping disciples and thinking, these jokers. They just don't know what's ahead. They don't even realize what they need to be set free from. And I love them enough that I will do this, even though it's really hard.